My name is Major Sarah Thompson, and the night my stepmother tried to humiliate me in front of my entire family was the night she made the biggest mistake of her life. I had just come home from an 8-month deployment, dust still on my boots, my hands still trembling from goodbyes I'd said to soldiers who didn't come back. All I wanted was one quiet dinner with my family. I didn't get one because the moment I reached for my chair, my stepmother pulled it away in front of everyone, and she said the words that would end our family the way we knew it forever. A military woman doesn't belong in this family. The room went silent. My father stared at his plate. My stepbrother pulled out his phone and started recording, laughing under his breath. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I stood up. I smiled. And I said, "You just made the biggest mistake of your life." She had no idea what was coming. Let me take you back. Before the uniform, before the rank, before any of this, my mother died when I was 12. Cancer took her slowly, and I watched my father fall apart in ways I never told anyone about. 2 years later, he married Diane. She came with a son, Kyle, 3 years older than me, and a smile that never once reached her eyes when she looked at me. From day one, Diane made it clear whose daughter I really was. Family photos got quietly rearranged. My name got left off the holiday card list by accident. Kay got the bigger bedroom, the newer car, the college fund my mother had actually set aside for me. I never told my father. He'd already lost so much. I didn't want to be one more thing breaking him. So, I left. I joined the military at 18, not to run away, though maybe a little of that, too, but because I wanted to build something that was mine, something no one could take or rearrange or leave off a list. 12 years later, I was a major. I had led soldiers through deployments most people can't imagine. I had earned every medal on my chest the hard way, and still walking into that house for Sunday dinner, I was just the stepdaughter who thinks she's better than us. I should have known that dinner would be different. I just didn't know how different. The plan was simple. My father had called me 2 weeks earlier, his voice thinner than I remembered. "Sarah, please just come home. One dinner, that's all I'm asking." I almost said no. Diane's messages over the years had been ice-wrapped in politeness, but it was my father asking, and some part of me still wanted, even after everything, to belong somewhere. So, I flew back, wore my dress uniform, not to show off, but because I'd come straight from an award ceremony and hadn't had time to change. I remember thinking on the drive over that maybe this time would be different. Maybe Diane had softened. Maybe Kyle had grown up. I was wrong on every count. When I walked in, Diane's eyes swept over my uniform with something between disgust and satisfaction, like she'd been handed a weapon and didn't even have to load to herself. "Well," she said, loud enough for the whole room, "look who decided to grace us with her presence. Dressed for war, I see." I let it go. I'd learned to let a lot go. Dinner started normal enough. Small talk. Kyle bragging about a promotion at a job his mother had gotten him through a friend. My father quiet, watching me the way you watch something fragile you're afraid to touch. Then I reached for my chair and Diane pulled it away. The chair scraped against the floor, and for one confused second I thought it was an accident. Then I saw her face. Come. Deliberate, almost amused. "A military woman doesn't belong in this family." She said, "Sit somewhere else. Or better yet, don't sit at all." Silence dropped over that room like a blanket over a fire. My father opened his mouth and closed it again. 12 years of silence had trained him well. Kyle laughed. He actually laughed, pulled out his phone, and started filming. "This is going straight online," he said. "Wait till everyone sees the big tough soldier get put in her place." I felt something rise in my chest. Not the anger you'd expect. Something colder, sharper. The same focus I used to feel right before a mission briefing when everything unnecessary falls away and only the plan remains. I looked at Diane, really looked at her. 12 years of small cruelties, of erased birthdays, of a stepdaughter treated like an inconvenience. All of it sitting behind her eyes, daring me to break. I didn't break. I stood up slowly. I straightened my jacket. I let the silence stretch until even Kyle's laughter died out. And I smiled. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life," I said, calm as still water. Diane rolled her eyes. "Oh, please, what are you going to do, Major? Deploy against me?" I didn't answer her right away. I just picked up my phone, sent one short text, and sat back down in a different chair. When I pulled up myself, "Finish your dinner," I told her. "You're going to want your strength for tomorrow." Here's what Diane didn't know, what none of them knew. 6 months earlier, my father had quietly called me, not Diane, not Kyle, me, and asked for help. He'd been diagnosed with early heart trouble. Diane didn't want to worry the family, so she'd been managing his medical decisions herself. And managing, it turned out, was a generous word for what she'd actually been doing. Because when I dug into it, I found she'd been slowly transferring money out of his retirement accounts. Small amounts, careful amounts, the kind designed to stay under the radar of a man too tired and too trusting to check his own statements. I hadn't confronted her yet. I'd been building a case. Bank records, power of attorney documents she'd had my father sign while he was medicated after a procedure. Documents he didn't remember agreeing to. A financial advisor Diane thought was loyal to her, who was actually now cooperating with me. I had planned to handle it quietly. Protect my father's dignity, let Diane walk away with nothing but her name removed from every account. No public embarrassment, no family scandal. That was the plan before she pulled my chair away and put her cruelty on camera for the world to see. That text I sent at the dinner table. It went to my lawyer and to the financial advisor. It said one word: tomorrow. Diane thought she had humiliated a soldier who wouldn't fight back at her own dinner table. She had actually just lit the fuse on everything she'd been trying to hide. The next morning, 2 things happened at almost the same time. First, Kyle's video, the one he'd proudly posted online showing a soldier put in her place, started getting attention. Not the kind he wanted. Veterans, active military, complete strangers began flooding the comments, not mocking me, but tearing into Diane and Kyle for their cruelty. It spread faster than either of them could control, and by afternoon Kyle had quietly deleted it, but the screenshots were already everywhere. Second, and far more important, my father sat down with the folder I handed him. Bank statements, the power of attorney document with a signature he genuinely didn't remember making. A timeline stretching back over a year. I watched something break in his face as he understood what had actually been happening in his own house while he trusted the person managing it. "Sarah," he said quietly, "is this real? I wouldn't show you if it wasn't." He called Diane into the room himself. I stayed standing near the door, still in my uniform from the ceremony the day before, because somehow it felt important to be exactly what she'd insulted while she faced what she'd actually done. Diane's face went through every stage: confusion, denial, anger, and when my father, in a voice steadier than I'd heard from him in years, told her the accounts were being frozen and a lawyer would be reviewing everything, she turned on me. "You planned this," she hissed. "You waited for this." "No, I said you handed it to me. I just made sure the truth had somewhere to go." Diane didn't go to prison. My father, even after everything, couldn't bring himself to press full criminal charges against the woman he'd shared a home with for over a decade. But the financial damage was undone. Every transfer dollar was traced and returned. The power of attorney was revoked. And Diane, with nothing left to control, packed her things within the week. Kyle tried briefly to paint himself as the victim online, claiming his family was being torn apart by an entitled sister with a grudge. It didn't work. The same strangers who had defended me from that dinner table video saw straight through it. He lost his job not long after. The one his mother had arranged for him through a friend who, once the truth came out, wanted nothing to do with either of them. My father and I talked more in the following weeks than we had in years. He apologized. Really apologized for the silence, for looking away for so long while Diane made me feel like a stranger in my own family. "I should have said something the day she moved your things out of your old room," he told me, his voice breaking. "I should have said something 100 times. I'm sorry, Sarah. I forgave him. Not because it erased 12 years, but because holding on to that anger wouldn't have protected anyone. It would have just kept me trapped at that dinner table forever, waiting for a chair that was never going to be pulled back in. Looking back now, I don't think about the chair or the insult or even Kyle's phone recording that awful moment. I think about how long I stayed quiet, How many years I let small cruelty slide because I thought speaking up would break something that was already broken. I think about how it took someone pulling a chair away from me in front of my whole family before I finally stood up, not just physically, but for myself. Here's what I learned. Cruelty says more about the person delivering it than the person receiving it. Diane spent 12 years trying to convince me I didn't belong. But it was never really about where I sat at a dinner table. It was about her own fear of losing control over a family that was never fully hers to control. And sometimes the people who try hardest to make you feel small are the ones standing on something they desperately don't want you to look underneath. I didn't destroy Diane because she insulted my uniform. I exposed her because the truth deserved to be seen and because some cruelty left unanswered only grows. If someone ever tries to make you feel like you don't belong at your own table, remember this. Stand up. Don't shrink. Don't beg for a seat that was always rightfully yours. Sometimes the smile you give them right before you walk away and let the truth do the rest is the loudest answer you will ever need.